Chapter 10, Part 2. Pretend Peter is hiding and Mr. McGregor can't see him. Not in the pot. He's crawling in the grass. Is he a baby? I could be a wolf with big teeth. No way. I jump up and I'm Super Rabbit. I could be your big brother to scare the wolf, okay? And we scare Mr. McGregor. The frequent deconstruction of Peter Rabbit in one class led me to further inquiry. Why is Mr. McGregor so mean to Peter? I asked after a third reading on demand. Couldn't he have given him just a small piece of lettuce? This is the sort of question children are eager to consider, and the responses were quick in coming. Mr. McGregor is afraid Peter wants to be his little boy, and he already got enough kids, so a child said. Peter eats too much, was another explanation. Not just a tiny lettuce. Maybe he wants to eat them all. However, the third reply interested the children the most and continued into the play when our discussion ended. He thinks Peter is someone else he doesn't know. If he thinks it's Super Rabbit, he'll be much nicer to him. I tried to read their thinking. Is it safe to be a baby or a superhero? Both scenarios enlarged upon the original story, and any sighting of Mr. McGregor initiated further dramatization of Peter's dilemma. At lunch, I brought up the subject again. I noticed you were playing Super Rabbit before, but I didn't see Mr. McGregor. That's because Super Rabbit doesn't even eat the lettuce. He eats super cyanide. That explodes you with super energy, so you don't even care about Mr. McGregor. When our concerns about academic progress in the early years causes us to minimize play, we may end up mourning the loss of many other worthy developments besides these philosophical permutations of babies and superheroes. At a conference recently, a kindergarten teacher reported on the gradual lessening of ordinary niceness in her classroom until she and the special education teacher decided to take matters into their own hands and reintroduce long play periods. This year, we've included more special needs kids in our room. These kids really have to play. They can't go from task to task like sometimes we do with others, so their teacher would take them out for what she calls play therapy. All of a sudden, this seemed crazy to me. Everyone needed play therapy. I convinced her to integrate what she does in the normal routine, and now we work together to keep play at the central motivation and learning place like in the old days. The audience broke into applause, encouraging the speaker to continue. Let me tell you, the kids are nicer to each other. At first, this was because we talked more about being kind to those who needed extra help. But I really think it's something else. There's more time to be kind, to solve problems, by playing in different ways to include more kids and let them have a say. How do you get away with it? Someone called out. What about the academic program? Nothing's been removed. It's all still there, but we've discovered that less is more. And you know the brightest kids have the most out of fantasy play. The brightest kids make the most out of fantasy play. They set up a level of creativity the others follow. This kid, Jeremy, for example, who's been reading for ages, started something in the blocks that involved all Scooby-Doo characters and Superdog and heaven knows what else. We've got an autistic boy who had not responded to a single activity yet, but he followed Jeremy around and put himself into the scene. We're pretty sure he was Superdog's rabbit pet. Everyone rises to the occasion. They're so happy to be able to play. She had been speaking rapidly, as if there was so much she wanted us to know. But then she stopped and laughed. It's so satisfying, just like playing in the backyard when we were kids. There's a flow, I remember, and a feeling that the world has slowed down enough for us to watch it turn. At that moment, the world did seem to slow down while each of us produced a vision of children, perhaps of ourselves, playing in some idealized backyard. Then a tall, dramatic-looking woman in a turban stood up and spoke to us. None of the children that I teach have a yard to play in. Not one where they are safe. They live in a project, not too different from the ones I grew up in. But somehow I know exactly what you're telling us, that we have it in our power to slow things down enough to watch and listen to every child, to what they're saying, and take the time to say something back. Not because you're waiting for the correct answer. No, you want to hear them because they're telling their little make-believe stories like children do in other places, where they have safe backyards, I swear. She continued, I never played one day in a nice backyard, but I'll bet we can figure it out. The kids and me like when they keep after me to read the same story again and again, so they can stay with it and feel it deeper. Amen, said the woman next to her. The stuff we spend our time with doesn't go deep enough, does it? She fidgets with her rings, then stands up. My name is Barbara. I'm at the same child care center as Denise here, but I was luckier as a child. We did have a nice yard to play in our little Mississippi town. But more to the point is the fact that my mother and grandma were both school teachers. Sure, we played the whole day long, but we also learned our ABCs, and there was always someone waiting to read or sing to us, and folks dropping by for long conversations. She pauses, then continues. I want to give these advantages to the kids in our center. They don't get to play enough, I know that, but they also don't get the verbal preparation at home. We just have to make up for that lack of stimulation and experience. Barbara looks around the room. Grandma always watched us play and talked to us about our ideas. Her sincere interest and curiosity made us receptive to everything else. Even my big brother, who was always restless and wanting to get away from anything that looked like a lesson, Grandma slipped in plenty of lessons, but it always seemed like we were telling stories to each other or playing games.